You're establishing yourself as an author on top of that, especially if it's within your niche, your specific niche, that's just going to elevate you even further. It's going to make those reporters, those media outlets want to speak with you even further because you're the expert. Not only are you the dietitian, but you are the expert within this niche. Here's your book to prove it. So I think having a book, I mean, that's just one of many reasons. I think connecting with your audience is also, it's a great way to connect with your audience. Sometimes you may have, this 8-week program, or you may have a course, you may have something that maybe is a little bit of a higher tier offer, and folks don't know you yet. They don't trust you yet. They don't know what's your philosophy, what's your message, and they may not be willing to, take that step with you. But through a book, people can get to that know, like, and trust factor that so many people talk about, right, these days. There's so much noise out there. If you can create something that's a lower priced offer, a book, get somebody to really get to know you. They're going to have a book with your words in it, your message. There's no advertisements, there's no fluffy. This is what you have to say. Get them to connect with you. I think it's just such a powerful way at a lower price to build that know, like, and trust factor, connect with that audience, have more influence, right? You can influence again in like your one-on-one work, but it's just that much greater when you can have your book online.
Well, hey there. Welcome to Media Savvy, the podcast that gives you a behind-the-scenes look at what it takes to get noticed by media and become the go-to expert that they keep coming back to. I'll be sitting down with successful writers, producers, and entrepreneurs to learn the tools and tactics they use to build their reputation and in turn boost their business. I'm your host, Taub-Dix, and I've been working with top-tier media outlets for more than 30 years, anywhere from traditional print publications to online and social platforms. And I'm sharing my nutrition guidance without gimmicks. But you don't have to be a dietitian for this podcast to speak to you. Through my one-to-one conversations, you'll learn how to build a strategy to get your name in the news and establish yourself as an authority in your field, no matter what the industry. With Media Savvy, I'm on a mission to inspire, motivate, and empower you to have the confidence and tools you need to shine in the spotlight. Are you ready? Let's get Media Savvy. Hello there, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Media Savvy podcast with Taub-Dix. I am so excited for you to hear about my guest today because today we are talking about self-publishing. And a lot of people out there really want to have a book and they try to get these big-time publishers. I have actually done both, big-time publisher and self-published. And, they both have their advantages and disadvantages. But today I really want you to see how you could make a book happen without waiting for a publisher to say, yes, we're going to take your book. And I have the perfect guest for you today. Her name is Liz Jalkiewicz. And let me tell you a little bit about her, and then we're going to jump right in. So Liz is a registered dietitian, nutritionist, writer, editor, and book coach, and she has over 15 years of experience in the nutrition field. Throughout her career, she has always integrated her passion for writing and editing into every role she has held. And ultimately, this led her to pursue entrepreneurship in this niche, which actually is a very unique niche. A few years ago, Liz began the Dietitian Editor to help fellow dietitians and other healthcare professionals reach their dreams of self-publishing and to enable them to share their powerful stories with the world by self-publishing on Amazon, further amplifying their influence, widening their reach, and creating more opportunities to generate passive income. And who does not like passive income? Liz's signature online course, Click to Publish, has already helped over 90 students on their self-publishing journeys, and you'll find a link to this course in the show notes today. Liz recently received the 2024 Outstanding Dietitian of the Year Award from Maryland Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and she lives in that state with her husband, her 2 children, and their pup. So welcome to the Media Savvy podcast, Liz. We are all excited to hear about how a book could really boost your business and in some cases really change the trajectory of your career.
Yes, thank you, Bonnie, for having me on today. I'm so excited to speak to your audience.
Oh, I can't wait. So to fill you all in on a little background here, just 3 weeks ago, I am excited to say that I launched the third edition of my book, Read It Before You Eat It, Taking You from Label to Table. And although the first edition was published by a big publishing house, as the year went on, it needed to be updated and they weren't doing anything for me promotion-wise. So I requested the rights to my book and I self-published the next edition. I don't know what happened with this third edition, but the formatting was way off. It was beyond something that I could do on my own, and I really needed help. And this is where Liz comes in. Today, Liz, my incredible guest, is going to tell us all about how she helped me and how she could help you. And I am so glad that I found her. But actually, I don't even know much about your past, Liz. So can you share a little bit about your origin story? Did you take a lot of journalism classes? Tell us about yourself.
Yeah. So no journalism classes. I've held multiple roles over the course of my career, from long-term care at the beginning of my career to working for the dairy industry. I dabbled in working as a retail dietitian. I say dabbled, but I was there for about 5 years and loved it. Some communications type roles. So I really kind of had a variety of roles within the dietetics industry, but regardless of where I was in my career, the role that I held, I always loved mass media. Any way I could communicate to the masses, whether it was participating in, pitching to local media, to do local media segments, which I did a lot of in the Baltimore area, writing for newsletters, putting out articles, getting quoted, like whichever role I had, I was always trying to get involved in the media because I just knew the power that we could have as dietitians, not only in our day-to-day job, working one-on-one with folks, but like having our message shared more broadly to the masses. So throughout that 15 or so year career, that's what I was kind of doing in the background. Whenever something needed to be edited, folks would give it to me. So I've kind of taken this niche and fine-tuned it over the years, this craft and this passion that I had. Which kind of led me to just up until a couple of years ago where I was like, you know what? My career path is not taking me to a position as editor. It's not taking me to a career path as media spokesperson, which were some of the dream jobs I've had early in my career. And so about 3 years ago in 2021, I decided, you know what? I'm going to create my own career path and do this thing. And so I set out on the path of entrepreneurship and have not looked back since. And so that's kind of how the dietitian editor was born in a nutshell.
I love that, and okay, for my listeners here, I just want you to know Liz is an incredible writer and editor. I have been writing for top tier media publications for the past 30 years, and neither one of us have ever taken a journalism class.
Oh,
and
you
that's
too. Yeah.
Me too. And, that's not to say that you shouldn't take a class or that you may not need one, but I'm just saying, don't feel like you need to be a journalism major to be a writer. Makes a big difference. And by the way, and it took years before I actually called myself a writer. I just used to say, yes, I write, but I didn't call myself a writer until actually I had my second column in USA Today. So that kind of sealed it for me.
Yeah, I think for a lot of dietitians too, if there's any younger dietitians or second career or students, interns listening, I think so often we think of the traditional career paths, but there's so many, if there's not a position out there that you're looking for, create it. You can create it. As dietitians, everyone eats. There's a way that we can be integrated into so many different industries, roles, positions. So if there's something you're really passionate about, don't wait to find the position online. Create it.
Love it. I love that. And, as I mentioned, when I found out about Liz, I knew exactly what I needed, and she was the perfect person to help me. So if you could explain in just a sentence or two or three, for those listening who may not yet know that they need you, how would you describe what you do?
Yeah. So simply put, I help and empower. So I educate and empower dietitians and other healthcare professionals to self-publish on Amazon. I help you get your word, your message, your story out to the world globally through self-publishing on Amazon. And so sometimes people are at different stages of their manuscript or self-publishing journey. So I can help from book ideation to editing and formatting the book. Bonnie, right? I can help with formatting. I can help with uploading. So I think a lot of that, it can really range. It's not just working on editing a manuscript, which is how I kind of started with one client, and how that journey of working with that one client kind of led me to, okay, I can help you self-publish this. And then once we kind of wrapped up, I was like, well, this is good information. It's nowhere out there on the internet, packaged up all nicely. Like, dietitians need to be aware that this is accessible to them. This is attainable. They can too share their story and self-publish, for a slew of benefits, which I know we'll talk about in a moment. But in a nutshell, if you want to self-publish a book, I can help. I'm your girl. And I would love to. I just have this passion for us as dietitians. Like, we have so much to give, so much value to provide to people to help them on their health and wellness journey. And you could do it lots of ways. You could do it via a blog. You could do it via private practice. You could do it through a group program. But when you have a book, you're creating something that will live forever. Yes, you can update it, right? Create different editions. But this one tool as a book can reach people around the world. It's really powerful.
It is so powerful. And we'll talk more about marketing a little bit later, but it really makes such a huge difference to have a book. And also, I really need to add to have a book where you are going to get your own royalties immediately when books are sold, which we'll also talk about. But could you give us a crash course in what Amazon KDP really is, and like why it's a valuable tool for authors? Because I think a lot of people who want to write may not even know that it exists.
Absolutely. So I throw around KDP a lot, but for those who don't know, Amazon KDP stands for Kindle Direct Publishing. So it's basically Amazon's self-publishing platform. It is free to create an account. It's relatively easy to create the account. It's a pretty user-friendly platform where you can create and upload, where you can upload and publish, ebooks, paperback books, hardcover books, and even audiobooks as well. So it's their self-publishing platform. And it's just, Amazon, as we know, is an e-commerce powerhouse. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. A lot of people trust the platform. They have repeat customers on the platform. As folks are listening right now, you may even have a book in your Amazon shopping cart right now. If not, put Bonnie's book in there. So it's a platform that is just, there's over 310 million active customers on that account. Not to say that all of them are your ideal client by any means, but it's this untapped audience that we can leverage. We can essentially partner with Amazon to have our books on their platform reach more people, have more positive impact.
So it sounds like Amazon obviously is Amazon, and that might be the best place to publish. But are there decent competitors? I don't even know about competitors for self-publishing.
Yeah, that's a great question. There are plenty of others, probably too many to name, but just some off the top of my head are Ingram Spark and BookBaby. Those are two websites where you can upload and publish and distribute your book online. Amazon for me gets the gold star. There's pros and cons to every platform. I think for some, they may provide maybe a little bit more customer support. Others are a little bit more DIY. Like for Amazon, for example, it's a lot of it's DIY, right? Like you are doing mostly everything A to Z. You're just leveraging their platform to upload it, publish it, and then have it sell. Obviously there's more that goes into it, but the royalties may vary slightly from each of these different, self-publishing platforms. But I love Amazon for all the reasons I stated earlier. And just like, it's the accessibility of it, the ease of using it, and the fact that you can really house as many books as you want on this platform for free. So it's not like you're just going to hit publish on one. Once you do the process once or twice, it kind of becomes like, you want to do more, and you listen to your audience, see what is it that they need, and you create more and more books, whether they're ebooks or print books. So there are other competitors, other ways you can go, but I'm a real advocate of using Amazon KDP.
Yeah, I think that some things that people don't realize or may feel overwhelmed by is that if you published your book elsewhere and you had all of these books sent to you and they were in your garage or your basement and you had to ship them out every time somebody needed one. I mean, I couldn't imagine that. And that's why I didn't even want to self-publish. But then when I realized that Amazon KDP existed and all I have to do is just nothing, just download my book and then people just order it and it's sent to them. I mean, it's incredible. It really is incredible.
Yeah.
And the way Liz says it's for free, it is free for you. But if your book is listed for, let's say, $10 or $15, you may get $5 per book or $7 per book because Amazon takes the rest for printing. So the more pages you have, just so you know, the less money you're going to get. But they're doing everything else. They're shipping it. They're sending it. You could even include a gift card when you send it to someone. So it is really just incredible.
I think, just to piggyback off that, Bonnie, the print on demand service is what you're referring to. I didn't mention that, but that is probably one of the best perks of Amazon. It's print on demand. Like you said, it's hands off for you. If someone in California or Washington orders your book, you don't have to worry about the shipping and distribution and making sure it gets there. So, that's part of the cut that Amazon takes from your royalty, but it is a standard 60% royalty rate for folks who might want to know, for print books. So it's pretty good.
And, sometimes I'm shocked when I see where my books are being sold. Mexico, Finland, Australia. I'm just shocked. There's no way that I would have wanted to send them to those places, but you'd be surprised at who actually is buying your book.
And you can order, you can order author copies too, which you can keep in your office, a box of them. You get them at a discounted rate. You're just paying for the print cost of the book. So you can keep them. So if you go to an event or a local book signing or, a networking, dinner or something, you can bring some with you if that's something you wanted to do and have signed copies. So there's definitely flexibility in there depending on how much of that kind of hands-on work you want to do.
Absolutely. And, if you had a company that was sponsoring you and wanted to do a book signing, which to me was like my bucket list, that was one of the most thrilling things was when I did a book signing once at our annual convention. A company bought 1,000 books. And when I went into the convention room, there were people lined up and I thought, wow, what are they giving out there? And when I realized it was my book, I actually started to cry. It was a good thing I had waterproof mascara on. Yeah, it was pretty fantastic. So it is an amazing feeling. And this could be a great way for you to really get your books out there at a more reasonable cost.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So, we know that being an author is really just incredible because there are so many reasons. You have more respect, you have more credibility. My book led to book signing tours, as I mentioned, speaking engagements, social media campaigns, and collaboration with so many brand partners. And many people who are listening who want to work with media may wonder if it's worth all the time and the effort to write a book. And just using myself as an example, just listen to this. I get a check deposited in my account every single month from people who buy my book. And that's with zero conventional advertising. But here's what happens is when my name is mentioned in the interviews that I do, I'm always quoted as author of Read It Before You Eat It. And people go to Amazon to search for my book when they read those interviews. So especially for those of you who are media makers, why is writing a book a game changer, Liz? What tangible benefits have you seen for professionals who want to publish their work?
Yeah, that's amazing. Great question. And I love everything you just said about your book. But yeah, being a dietitian, I think just automatically sets us apart, right, from the general public in terms of working with the media because we have this credential. They know what they're going to get. We're evidence-based, right? But establishing yourself as an author on top of that, especially if it's within your niche, your specific niche, that's just going to elevate you even further. It's going to make those reporters, those media outlets want to speak with you even further because you're the expert. Not only are you the dietitian, but you are the expert within this niche. Here's your book to prove it. So I think having a book, that's just one of many reasons. I think connecting with your audience is also, it's a great way to connect with your audience. Sometimes you may have, this 8-week program, or you may have a course, you may have something that maybe is a little bit of a higher tier offer, and folks don't know you yet. They don't trust you yet. They don't know what's your philosophy, what's your message, and they may not be willing to, take that step with you. But through a book, people can get to that know, like, and trust factor that so many people talk about, right, these days. There's so much noise out there. If you can create something that's a lower priced offer, a book, get somebody to really get to know you. They're going to have a book with your words in it, your message. There's no advertisements. There's no fluffy. This is what you have to say. Get them to connect with you. I think it's just such a powerful way at a lower price to build that know, like, and trust factor, connect with that audience, have more influence, right? You can influence again in like your one-on-one work, but it's just that much greater when you can have your book online. So it also helps you build income streams, passive income streams at that. When I learned about this concept of passive income, it kind of blew my mind a few years ago. I'm like, where have I been in this world of passive income? But yeah, having this this book can serve as one of many, revenue streams you have in your business, but it's more passive. You create it once, it continues to make money for you without you trading your time for money. But ultimately, I think the marketing piece of it is really important to understand. All those benefits we said are great. The book royalties are great, but it's serving as a marketing tool for you in your business, and it's working for you 24/7, 365, similar to a website or a blog, right? So it's like another piece of the passive income pie, having this book. So it's a marketing tool. It's you do it once and it works for you in the background. So I think that's really one of the best benefits of it.
And what I have learned in all these years is that there's kind of no such thing as passive income, meaning that, I remember that years ago, very early on, I heard someone say, I like to make money while I sleep. And I thought, wow, that is what I want to do. Like, that is a good goal. However, even for myself, where I say, like, I'm shocked sometimes when I see who bought my book, I had to do media interviews for those people to see my book and buy it.
Absolutely.
If you have a book, you need to promote it. So, there may be some activity that you have to do to make those sales happen. But when they happen, it's like magic because people are buying it that you don't even know, who you're reaching. So
right.
that is really incredible. And, when we talk about marketing, I often teach clients who unfortunately have a bad case of imposter syndrome not to compare myself to others and to uncover their own strengths instead. And even though this is true, when it comes to writing a book, it is so important to look at what others are doing. So I know you know a lot about this and, doing market research. Could you tell us a little bit about market research, how to do this, how to check to see what else is out there? Because we all may have similar messages to other people, but we want to say it in a different way. Could you talk about market research?
Yes. And I'm going to start with this tip too, because I hear it a lot from people who are thinking about writing books on a certain topic. They'll say, oh, but it's such a saturated market. There's so many books on diabetes. There's so many books on how to lower your cholesterol, et cetera. And I agree, there are. But when you take a step back and look, how many of those books are written by credentialed health professionals? And then it gets smaller. How many of those books are, and you kind of start to, the number of like good books, evidence-based books starts to dwindle down. So I think that saturated market, it does look like there's a lot of noise out there. So yes, absolutely doing your market research. I think number one is listen to your audience, whether it's people, clients in your private practice, whether it's your social media community or your email, folks on your email list. Listen to what they're saying, ask them questions, poll them, survey them, see what it is that they are looking for. What is it that they want? Because as dietitians, especially, I feel like we're so good at knowing what people need. We know if someone has diabetes, they need XYZ. If they have this, they'll have XYZ, and this will help. But it's not always what they want. So we need to understand, meet people where they're at, give them what they want with what they need. And this is in terms of the book, how we title it, how the outline and the structure of the book is it meeting them where they're at so that they see that book and they're saying, yes, this is for me. It's speaking in my terms. It's meeting me where I'm at. Keywords, phrases that they use, buzzwords, like we may call, use a certain term in dietetics talk, but that's not how the customer or the general public is saying it. I'm trying to think of a good example off the top of my head, like gestational diabetes. Like if you call your book, if you have gestational diabetes in your title of your book, it may not get as many hits or searches as if you said pregnancy with, and diabetes, keeping it simple. So I think part of the market research is asking your audience and then listening, giving them what they want, with what they need, and making sure we speak in their terms so that when they're searching, because ultimately it comes down to what is the customer searching in the Amazon search bar, that's going to pull up your book in the massive search, results that it can generate. So those are just some tips that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's great. No, that's great. And I think that, sometimes we have ideas for things that we want to write about, and it's so important to see what else is out there. And I remember that this is a story that you'd appreciate. I don't remember if I've said it before on this podcast, but the book that I really wanted to write was a book about emotional eating and the psychology of eating. And it took me a year to write the proposal. I went over it with my agent. And then right before we were ready to send out, like literally that week, he said to me, you know what? I think we should put that book on hold. A publisher asked me, for someone who could write a book, and I think you should write it. I said, all right, what's it about? He said, food labels. It's like, no way. I hate that topic. He said, don't tell me now. Tell me tomorrow. Just think about it. And I wound up looking up other books on food labels, and so many of them were like boring and stiff, and they didn't have an aisle by aisle tour of the supermarket that my book has it. So I thought, all right, fine. I'll write the book. And in the meantime, I never wound up writing my first book. This was, the only book that I had. But still, it's just writing the same old in your own voice in a different way. But you need to see what else is out there to know how you could stand out and how you could make it different.
That's true. Yeah. Part of what I teach in kind of my program is that market research that you're saying. And it's like, what are other books priced at? And I should have touched on this before. What are other books priced at? Because you don't want to be too high, too low, right? But you want to be kind of competitive. What are the titles that people are using? And in the product description of the book, like how are they kind of teeing it up and framing it and positioning it? Like, do they call out specific recipes they have? Or you can get, how many pages is the book, right? So there's different things you can look at to help to position your book. And also, bonus tip, I guess, is read the reviews. The reviews, there's like so much gold in the reviews of these books on Amazon. You can learn what's working well for the book. You can learn more about what people don't like and where you can improve. So I think some people skip that, but go to some of your favorite books or books that you think are competitive with what you're looking to do. Read the reviews, gather some information, and then kind of revise from there.
I love that tip. And that's the kind of thing that a lot of people don't do. I will admit, if I'm buying something on Amazon, I look at how many reviews and then I click buy. My husband goes right to the negative reviews to see like what was wrong with it. So I probably need to do a little more about that. But that really is so important to find out what people are actually enjoying. So you could write more of that, and what they really didn't like. So you could at least ditch that from your book. I love that. I wanted to ask you a question about something that I never knew actually had a title, but some of our colleagues have published low and lower content books. And it sounds crazy to say you have a low content book. I mean, that sounds like something you wouldn't want to pick up, but once you explain it, it'll make sense. So Liz, could you demystify the low and lower content books? What does it actually mean? And could you give us a few examples?
Absolutely. This is great for first-time self-published authors to start here. So low content books by definition on Amazon are books that have little to no content on the inside pages, the interior file, and they are repetitive in nature for the most part. So think of like a plain old lined notebook or a doc grid journal or something where the pages are repetitive throughout. In these types of books, it's really all about the cover. That gets that person to stop the scroll, like, oh, that's a notebook for me. It's speaking to me. So for example, we have one student who has a kidney warrior journal. It's a lined notebook inside, but it's for kidney warriors. If you're a dialysis patient, if you're a renal dietitian or a nurse or a caregiver. So that again is just one example of someone to, see what a low content book could be. Lower content books are kind of like this middle of the road book. And this is what a lot of students that I work with are publishing. So it's not a simple lined notebook, and it's not a 40, 60, 80,000 word manuscript. It's this sweet spot in the middle where you have maybe 10, 20, maybe a little bit more pages up front that explain your message, explain your philosophy, explain whatever it is that this book is going to be focused on. And then the pages repeat. So it could be like a 90-day food log, a 90-day habit tracker, a 30-day blood sugar log. There's so many different ways you can go with it. But basically it's, again, a lower content book. So there are words in it. You're putting your spin, your tone, your message in there. You're educating. And then the pages kind of repeat. So it's meant for the user to fill it out. So kind of like, again, a journal, a notebook, an activity, like workbook, symptom tracker, things like, for IBS, food allergies. There's lots of different ways. Coloring books that you can go. Adult coloring books are a big one that a lot of people are purchasing these days. And again, you can kind of niche it to your audience. We have a student who works in school nutrition in the course, and she did such a great job. She really honed in on her target audience, which were school nutrition professionals. And she created a gratitude journal and coloring book. And it was specifically, the verbiage, the things that were on the page were speaking to that audience. And her book has gone viral in the sense within the school nutrition community, where districts have purchased it for employees and for staff because it just resonated so well. And again, it's not like it took her a year to make it because it's not a manuscript type book. It's a lower content book. So these are great for first-time self-published authors to just start to learn the process of self-publishing, get something out there that resonates with your audience. And then, am I jumping ahead? I might be jumping ahead. But one of the big, one of my good tips here is make sure you have a call to action in the book, even if it's something as simple as a lined notebook. Tell people where to go next. Your book, again, is a way to build that know, like, and trust factor. But now what? Like, where do you want them to go? Your blog, your website, your Instagram page, give that, or do you want them to opt into a freebie that you have for your email list? Drive them, have a, what am I trying to say? Give them somewhere to go when they're done with the book so that you can help to continue them on their wellness journey. Sorry.
I think that that's so important. And I think that what a lot of people don't realize is that you could still have calls to actions even in a book, even in something that's not digital. And especially if you have a very easy website to remember, like mine is betterthandieting.com, or for this podcast, it's mediasavvybtd.com. And I purposely chose names that are really easy to remember. So if you have a handout, if you have a freebie, like a newsletter, if you have something like that, it is really easy to put this in the book. Even if you want to put your social media handles, you could put that in the book. That alone is something that could lead people to connect with you beyond the book. Yes. And that is really just something that always stuck with me, because you would feel like in old time books, there's not going to be any kind of website in there, but it's so easy to do that these days. If someone buys your Kindle version, of course, then they might even have something that's clickable in there. I'm
Absolutely.
not sure. Is it?
Yeah, they have you can put a ton of hyperlinks in there. And with the print books too, some people love QR codes. Some people are kind of over them, but they work well in print books because that QR code is not going to disappear on a screen, right? So you can always have someone scan the QR code with their phone and have it take them right to your Instagram page, and they can follow. So there's lots of call to actions there too. So I do recommend usually doing something like that, the QR code in a print book.
Yeah, I love the idea of these books, even though I will admit that one time a colleague was promoting her new book, and she kept talking about her new book, like it was a really big thing for her. And it seemed like it was like an amazing book. And I ordered it, I got it, and I was so surprised that maybe a chapter or so was on the topic that she was talking about. And the rest was all stuff that people could fill in on a day-to-day basis. And I was like, really? This is your new book? But it really is popular.
Yeah.
And people like to fill in for a lot of people. Even when I have clients keep a food diary, writing it down and putting it on paper makes it real. And for a lot of people, they just need a guide. And the other thing is, it's obvious that Liz and I are dietitians, but for those of you who are listening who are not dietitians or even in the healthcare field, it doesn't matter. You could have one of these low content books about that, like you said, just gratitude or raising kids or whatever you want to put in there, and put in a few inspirational quotes on different pages. And this is what really is helpful for people.
Yeah, definitely. I'll add real quick to that. Amazon doesn't tell you who purchased your book, right? You might see where they're from in the world, but they don't tell you who purchased. And so, kind of like a trick or a tip again is when you create these calls to actions, having them follow you on social is great. Go to my website, read my blog, all great. But if you can create a QR code with a specific lead magnet or email opt-in that you've only shared for book readers, then it's easier to understand and know who's purchased your book. Because if someone gets on your email list from that freebie, they only got it because they have your book. And so then you can encourage them to, you've purchased my book. Would you mind writing a review or provide any feedback? So that is a great tip too, as a way to get a couple more maybe reviews on your book from folks who have bought it, because otherwise you really don't know who has your book in their hand.
Just think about how amazing that is. Like, could you imagine if you bought a book and then you wind up getting an email from the author? I mean, it's so different than it used to be. That is so fantastic to be able to have this conversation with someone. And I love when people write to me because they read my book, then they go to my website and then they write to me and they say, by the way, I had one more question. It's like, wow, that's so cool. Yeah. So I just love that. It sounds as if self-publishing is just like easy and amazing. And in many respects it is, but I can attest to the fact that there are some things about it that are really not that easy. It's kind of like when I had my first big job, I was so happy that there were people out there that were accountants, because I hated dealing with all the numbers and doing my taxes. But I was so happy when I met Liz and I needed to get help with this self-publishing. So the navigating the self-publishing waters could be tricky. So could you tell us a few of the challenges that some authors face and how they could steer clear of some of those roadblocks?
Yeah, absolutely. So like we said earlier, the Amazon KDP platform is DIY. So they're not helping you with the writing, the formatting, the editing or proofreading. It's simply a platform for you to upload your ready to go manuscript and hit publish. So I think some of the common challenges I see with folks trying to do it on their own from A to Z is the formatting for sure. Like they'll think they're done. They go to upload and then it shows them all these errors like fixing the margins or the spacing or this is off the page. And so that can get really frustrating very quickly for folks. And it could make them feel a little bit defeated, like, oh, who am I to do this anyway? Like X, and like never look at it again. So formatting is one, and a way to get, they do have lots of great resources on their site, video tutorials, articles that you can read. You can call their customer service, if need be. So formatting is one. I would say the editing and proofreading is another, for self-published authors, right? You want it to look as professional and clean and tight as it possibly can. Like it did come from a traditional publisher. And then I would say two other things. Cover design sometimes is a struggle for self-published authors. If you're designing in Canva or, trying to do it, you want to, again, make it look as professional as possible, but it's self-published, and be proud of the cover. It's usually the first thing that people look at to stop the scroll. And then the last piece is Amazon SEO. I think for a lot of folks who are just doing it on their own, especially for the first time, they're like, okay, I have this idea for a book. I'm going to write it. I'm going to put it on Amazon. I'm going to hit publish. I'm going to walk away and let the money roll in, right? But there's this whole factor of strategy behind what you're doing and why you're doing what you're doing, and Amazon search engine optimization. A lot of people refer to SEO more from a Google perspective and blogging, which is also important. Amazon has its own algorithm for SEO, and it's important to know a little bit about that. So just like real high level, knowing what keywords people are searching for, picking the right categories. Categories are basically what bookshelf on the Amazon store is your book going to sit on, to make sure people find it. Pricing appropriately, writing a really good product description so you are able to share with your audience what it is that they're getting, so they're not surprised if it's a lower content book. And so those are just some of them. And I think ways to steer clear of them is to just educate yourself as much as possible, but then also don't get stuck in just learning and reading. You have to do it in order to fail, make a mistake, and then learn from it.
Yeah. And you could always make changes to your book. I think that's important to know too. As my own example, if my book is about buying food in the supermarket and food labeling, that is a topic that changes. Mm-hmm. So, I remember my first issue of my book had the food pyramid in it. That doesn't exist anymore. So obviously it needed to be changed. So when you do a book with a traditional publisher, if they want to do another edition, that's great. But sometimes they don't want to if the book didn't sell well. So then you could just publish it yourself and make whatever changes you want. So that's really important to know. All right. Well, Liz, you might be happy to know that I'm working on another book and you are going to be one of the first to see it when it's done.
Yay.
But until then, I have 2 questions that I like to ask all my guests so that they could help and inspire others. So one is, looking back on your journey in the media landscape, and I didn't even know that you did media interviews. What is the one piece of advice that you wish you had received when you first started out?
Oh my gosh, so much probably. I would say, just do it scared. You're never going to be 100% ready. You're never going to have, life is never going to be perfect for you to decide to write a book or decide to pitch that local media, station. So just do it scared and fail and learn from it. And that's how you're going to get better. If you never fail, you're not going to learn. So do it scared. I just actually posted recently on my Instagram a quote from Stephen King, and it says the scariest moment is, I'm going to butcher it. It's something like the scariest moment is always right before you begin. So all that anticipation, all that worry, it's and I have to remind myself of this all the time. So don't think I have it figured out, but all that anticipation and worry before you do the thing, it gets you all worked up for nothing. Just do it, learn from it, pivot, twist, and turn, and keep moving forward. So I wish someone would have told me that in the beginning. Just go.
I actually once heard a story about Stephen King, but I'm not even sure if it's true, but I liked it. And the story was that he got 20 something rejections for the first book that he handed in, and he kept getting rejections, and he just wound up throwing out his books, and his wife took them out of the garbage or whatever. And then he finally, when he got a book published, he wound up getting his other books published too. So sometimes, these books have a life of their own. And you'd be surprised, once you become an established author, it might be easier for you to get your second book published. But especially if you have the confidence to know that your book did well, there may be a sequel to it. So that's really important. Well, the second question I had for you is one piece of advice you had for first-time self-publishers, but I think you kind of answered that with, just do it, just write something. Even if it's not a complete book. And that's the other thing is don't expect to write a complete book the first time you sit down and write. Mm-hmm. And I think it's Anne Lamott who had one of my favorite quotes. And she said, don't be afraid to write a shitty first draft. And that is really important. Don't worry about spelling and punctuation and all that stuff. Just get your ideas out there because you could always fine tune them later on.
Yeah, because if it's just a blank screen, you can't edit that, right? You have to put something on it in order to edit it. And so, I could probably go on with some advice, but that's probably one of the most important things. It's don't just do it, even if you're scared. Just do it.
I agree. Liz, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Can you tell our audience where they could find you? And as I said, there'll be information in the show notes, but for those people who don't read show notes, could you say where they could find you and just tell us a little something about your course?
Sure. So you can find me at thedietitianeditor.com. That's also my Instagram handle, The Dietitian Editor. It's probably where you can find the most current information of what I have going on. And yes, my course is Click to Publish. So it's a self-paced online course and community where basically teach you everything from A to Z on how to do this thing that we just talked about today with the strategy behind it. So you can get your book out into the world, have more impact, reach more people, and make some passive income. And so for that course, you can go to clicktopublish.com for more information.
And I do just want to say that even though Liz is a dietitian and she's called the Dietitian Editor, you do not have to be a dietitian to go to her course or ask her for help and get your book out there because she is great for anyone. So I really just want to say that.
Correct. Yeah, I'm on a mission to help healthcare professionals. We have to drown out that noise that's out there from unqualified healthcare professionals and get more dietitians and health and wellness pros writing books with, evidence-based information. So I'm here to help all healthcare pros.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do that. Well, that's a wrap for today's episode of Media Savvy, and a huge shout out to Liz Jalkiewicz for giving us a taste of what her media journey was like. And if today's chat sparks something in you, please hit that subscribe button, leave us a review, and why not share some of our chats with your friends? So remember, your own media journey isn't just about gaining visibility. It's about building bridges that establish you as a valuable resource over and over again. So don't miss our next episode for more insights. And until then, keep up with us on Instagram at BTD Media, and you'll get some exclusive tips and behind the scenes. Send me a DM if you have some questions. And by the way, you are looking especially media savvy today. This is Bonnie signing off, and I'll see you in the spotlight.